And so now we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing. So we are conducting a citizen science activity that will help us to both get a better understanding of where and how much flooding is occurring across Southeast Florida, or South Florida, or actually, Martin, do we, that's not, what we call that? That's not included in Southeast Florida, right?
We're South Florida.
Okay, we'll just say South Florida. All right, cool. So to help us to refine the information that we have about flooding, as well as to provide that information so that it can be useful for government planning and decision making by residents. Next, please. I think I just mentioned this, and having fun doing it together. So just a couple of pictures of some of our previous events, people out at Biscaya, other locations taking samples. Next, please. Okay, so just a quick rundown of what the citizen science flood reporting looks like. So here we have this handy tool that was created by Dr. Jacobson and our GIS staff that helps us to understand just in a general sense, and this uses what we call a bathtub model. So it's just taking the difference between the projected sea level rise and the land elevation, just to give us an idea where we might observe flooding associated with a tidal event. So we use that application in addition to information that's been provided to us by the counties and municipalities about where they expect to see flooding. And we organize the sampling around that information and help to organize teams of samplers that are dispatched to these different locations. And after that, we set up all those locations, we provide you with that information, and then we send you out with a citizen science kit, which includes all the tools you need to take the flood height of your sampling location, take the salinity of the flood water, and then grab a couple samples of the flood water, including one that's designed to test for bacteria in the water. So that we can get a better understanding of the quality of the water, of that flood water. And then you upload all of this information into a web form that was created by Dr. Jacobson. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Next, please. Okay, so just a quick overview. Next.
Am I advancing?
It was advanced, but then it went back. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see the next slide? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so just to provide a quick overview, so you'll head out to your site. You're going to be measuring. Just advanced again.
Sorry, my connection got a little wonky.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry. Do you see the appropriate slide?
Yeah, we see it. Thanks. So you're going to grab a water depth at your site using a measuring tape and take a picture of that so that we can see that measuring tape in the water and the numeric value of the flood water. And then you'll take a measurement of the flood water to determine its salinity, and this is using a refractometer. And you'll also take a picture down the ocular of that refractometer, and it'll look something like you see down there on the bottom right picture, which indicates the salinity level of the flood water. And if you have any trouble with the refractometers, we have a couple of numbers here, and I think those are also shared within the citizen science kits, so that you would have on site. And then we have a E. coli test kit, And so, and you'll also have 2 sample bottles. So you take a, one of these translucent sample bottles, dunk it into the water neck first, put it below the water surface, turn it on its side, and you do that to avoid getting any particulate matter into the bottle. But you take that and then you pull that bottle up and you pour water from the bottle into the E. coli test bottle, cap it, shake it, and then that is going to show us within 24 hours whether there's any bacteria in the water. And you're also going to take a picture of that E. coli test tube once you fill it up and shake it. And then you'll have that empty bottle that you just used, the empty sample bottle, and then you'll have a second sample bottle. And you do the same thing with that translucent water sample bottle, stick it down into the flood water neck first, tip it on its side so that you're allowing water to go into the bottle without any particulate matter that may be floating on the surface. And you fill that bottle up. And then you write down the information about what's on the sample bottle label again?
We have salinity, your group number, the time that you took the sample.
Yeah, so it's salinity, the time, and the group number. So that lets us connect your sampling location back to the sample bottle. And then you'll repeat that a second time. And then you'll take a picture of those sample bottles. So you just kind of hold them up, and your partner or whomever you've assigned to take the pictures will grab that picture and upload that into the web form. And then there are 2 site pictures. We ask you to take a close-up so that we can see, what the water looks like, and then a long shot or a context photo so that we can see what the general environment looks like. And then with the water depth measurements, it's helpful to take the water depth measurement that's sort of representative of the flooding that is observed in that area. And then all this information, as I mentioned, is entered into the web form. Next, please. And so this is just a quick coverage. I think these are from sampling in 2017. So one of the most helpful and impactful aspects of the citizen science work is not only that we get to come together and around issues of sea level rise as a community, but we also are conducting sampling that is it's simply not possible without the power of citizens and to get the wide distribution of sampling sites within a very short period of time. The tidal event is a pretty short period, so that it really helps us to get a lot of information in a very short period of time. Next, please. Okay, so sampling time. So these are the earliest, highest high tide that the different NOAA tidal stations are reporting. So for Miami-Dade, we use the Virginia Key NOAA tidal station. The earliest high tide time is 9:25. For Broward, we use the Port Everglades station, and the earliest high tide is projected for 8:30. And then in Martin County, the earliest high tide using the Sanskrit Park station, the earliest high tide is reported for 9:45. But the optimal sampling time is likely going to be later than these times. So we've tried to adjust the times a little bit more, refine them to the time that we think that the tide will be highest at your sampling location. So we ask that you please arrive 15 minutes before the specific time that was both emailed to you and I think is also available as in the kits, and then wait until about 15 minutes after that time, just to try to capture, to be ready for the variability that may happen in terms of the exact timing of the highest high tide. And then if you notice the flooding starts to recede, make sure to go ahead and take that sample. It's not too late. And then Alyssa has a note here for station leaders to please remember to bring your team sampling kit. Next, please. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Jacobson is on deck.
All right. Actually, Alyssa, are we playing the video first?
Yeah, so we're gonna launch the video first.
Okay.
Just over what Tiffany said, but a visual take on it. Can you hear it?
Hi, my name is Brad, Program Manager with the FIU Institute of Water and Environment, and I'm here to help explain in a how-to video how to use the citizen science sampling kits that we provide for king tide flooding events with the Sea Level Solutions Center. It's going to be taking citizens out, students, teachers, residents, and FIU scientists and researchers out into local communities to conduct citizen science measurements of king tide flooding, and we're going to be distributing kits that will help provide all of the tools and information that you'll need to conduct the sampling, and we're here to explain how to do that step by step. So the first thing you're going to do is check inside your citizen science kit that we provide for an information packet on how to download the app and register, sign up for the king tide sampling. It will provide a form for you that's going to have all of the information that you're going to need to input, and it will give further instructions. And the first thing that we're going to have you do is go out in teams to different sites that we have located on a map, also inside your kit, and that's going to tell you step by step what you need to do to conduct the sampling. So each citizen science team is going to need at least 2 people, one person to conduct the actual measurements and the other to input the data into the phone through the app and take pictures throughout the process. One collecting the data. The first thing you want to do is put on your gloves. All right, so you want to have your gloves because you are going to be getting wet. You're also definitely going to want to have high boots. Rain boots, rubber boots are best because some of these events can have 2.5 feet of flooding, and so you will get wet, and that's another reason why you want the gloves, because you're going to be using your hands to actually conduct the measurement. So the first tool you're going to be using in your citizen science kit is the tape measure, and you're going to be recording the flood depth. So you're going to take your tape measure and extend it so that the 0 is facing down, and you're going to put it in the centermost part of the flood where it's deepest and record the depth in inches. And then you're also going to want to have the second person take a photo of that depth close up so that we can see where the water line is and verify that that's how deep the flood is. So the next step is to measure the salinity and see if there is any salt content in the water in the flood. You're going to take your refractometer and your pipette, which is an eyedropper. You're going to stick your pipette into the flood below the surface and squeeze so that you can draw some water in. And then you're going to flip open the lens on the refractometer and drop some of that water onto the tip, close the lens again, and then look through the eyepiece. When you look through the eyepiece, you should see a little gauge, and you're going to look on the right side for parts per thousand salinity. It should be a number somewhere between 0 and 30, 30 being salty bay water and 0 being fresh water. So look for where the dark blue line and the light blue line meet and record that number again between 0 and 30. You also want to take a picture, if you can, with your phone of the reading that the refractometer is getting, and you want to make sure that there is enough light coming through here so that you can see the actual reading in the eyepiece. When you're done, clean off the refractometer with your cloth. Next, you're going to be taking a sample of the flood with a bottle that is included in your citizen science kit. So you want to take your sampling cup and stick it upside down and put it directly into the water so the water is up to your wrist but not going above your glove, into your glove. And then you want to tilt it sideways. We don't want to collect any of the debris and stuff floating at the surface. So you want to stick it below the surface, tilt it sideways, let the bubbles come out, and then tilt it up so that you can then remove it, cap it, and put it back into your citizen science kit. Then also take a photo of the bottle with the label on it that verifies that that's the sample from that place and time. So finally, you want to make sure that you have taken enough photos of the surrounding area so that we get a sense of context, and if we go back to repeat a measurement there, we can find exactly where you sampled from and repeat that measurement and get good information. So you want to look for landmarks that will stand out, a stop sign or a lamppost, and if you can, measure how far away your sampling site was from that location. So you also want to take a close-up shot of the flood as well as a zoomed out photo to give that context and background for where you took the sample. Make sure that you have taken all of the data that the app asks for. If there are any other notes that you want to make about the location or a description of the flood, feel free to do that as well. You can take a short video, but please no more than 2 to 3 seconds if the flood is bubbling or moving, and that will help us get a sense of where it actually is. If it's located near a storm drain, these are places where we want to get information about the flood. And then finally, when you're all done, remove your gloves. And we also have included hand sanitizers so that you can clean up at the end, and then you're all set.
Great. All right. So now Susan will be going over the form, but we'd like to ask you if you all have your cell phones with you, if you could scan this QR code just so you can follow Susan along as she walks you through the form. The way to scan a QR code is you open up your mobile camera and you just scan the barcode and it should pop up. So now I'll give them 30 seconds to run that, and then Susan, we can share your screen. I've also put the link in the chat. And as you all are pulling that up, I'll answer Sophie's question. So that's actually a great question. If boots are necessary, boots are not necessary. Not all sites will there be 2 feet of water. There might be some sites that you might not even see flooding, which is still data that we need to collect. And we'll touch on that later. But essentially, what I suggest is just bring shoes that you're okay that they could get wet, if that is the case. You know, boots are maybe a safer option, but you might not get wet. So just to clarify that. I'll stop sharing my screen, and Susan, you can now share yours to walk everybody through the form.
All right, great. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to walk you through this form. I'm going to share my screen. I have a picture of it. I'm looking at it obviously on my desktop, so I have a giant version of this, but there's a nice friendly phone-sized one that you access on your phone. So I'm just going to go through the steps. And if you have any questions, please let me know. The first thing that usually happens when you load this form is that you get a message saying something like CScan would like to use your location. Please say yes, because that is the way that it can tell your location on this lovely map. We're going to go over that again. So if you say no, it's not going to record your location. You're going to have to describe it to us verbally. So please give it permission to use your location. It's just for this one application. So at the very top, we have linked some instructions. I'm not going to go there, but you can see there in case this one doesn't work. We have the alternate instructions. So these are the fields. So if your group has a name, you can put the name in here. I think Alyssa is going to give your group a name like group 12 or something.
Yeah, it's a number. Yeah.
Okay, a number. Okay. So please put the name of your group leader. And if you want to put the name of other members of your group, you can. And then we really need the email of the group leader. And we use this in case we have any questions about the data collected. So it's very important for us to get this information. And if you see this little red asterisk, that means that if you try to submit this without this email, it's not going to let you. So make sure you put your email. Thank you. What kind of phone are you using? If you tell us what kind of phone you're using to collect the data, that just helps us for debugging. On date of data collection, you just select this. And so right now it's the 8th, but we're going to be collecting on the 9th. And then the time of data collection, this will pop up with the current time. You know, if for some reason it's a different time, you can just indicate that and it will fill it in. So the little icon here, the little pinpoint will indicate your location. If for some reason this map doesn't show up, or if it's not showing the correct location, please tell us your location down here. So let's say this doesn't show, I would say something like, I am in Miami Shores at 92nd Street. And I don't know, what's that, 2nd Avenue over there, something like that. Okay. So the next question asks, is this report for your originally designated site? If not, please describe why you chose a new site. So you might choose a new site for a couple of reasons. One is that you go to the designated site and there's no water, there's no standing water. And we do want you to record that. But if you see that there's some water down the street, so take a, fill out the form for that. But if you see that there's water, say, nearby, go over to that site and take a reading. And then in here you would say, well, we started out at 92nd Street and 2nd Avenue where there wasn't any water, and then we saw that there was some water on 92nd Street and 3rd Avenue, so we took the reading there. Okay. So here's where you're going to start. You're going to have two people, as the video says. There's going to be someone who is entering the data on the phone, and there's someone else who's going to be taking the measurements. So the person who's taking the measurements by this time has put on their gloves, has the measuring stick out, has stuck it in the water, and we should be able to see how deep the water is. So you're going to manually enter the depth of the water. So I'm going to put in like 6.5 inches, and you only have the option to measure in inches. And then we're going to ask you to take a picture of the water depth measurement. And what this does is we want to kind of get a close-up of where the tape measure hits the water. And this is a method of data verification for us. So if you type in 6.5 inches, let's say you meant to type in 8.5 inches and you didn't notice that you made a mistake, we have this picture to show us what was really there. So then you would go, let's say this is my picture of my water measurement, and it will just upload there. For the salinity, you take out the refractometer and you enter the refractometer reading in here. And the refractometer, remember, that measures the salinity of the water. You're going to use the scale that goes from 0 to 30 on the right-hand side. So you would enter the number here. Let's say it's 22.1 or something like that. And then you also want to try to take a picture of the salinity measurement. And to do that, you have to kind of put the refractometer, the ocular, up against your camera. It can be a little tricky. Do the best that you can. But then again, you would take a picture. You would say, okay, that's my refractometer reading. Then you're going to take your water bottle, sample bottle, and as the video shows, you're going to stick it into the water sideways and then collect some water in it. And then when you bring it up, label it and take a picture of the water with the label. So we can see the bottle number, we can see your group number, we can see all the information on the label. And then you'll take a picture of that. And here you can describe the standing water. So if you're at the corner of, I don't know, let's use 92nd Street and 2nd Avenue again, you could say something like, there is about, there's a radius of about 4 feet of water coming out of a drain at the corner. It's not raining. There's a lot of cars on the street. So whatever kind of information you think we need to know to describe this standing water. We're going to ask you to take a close-up of the standing water. So if the water seems to be coming out of a drain, you might take a close-up of the drain. And a lot of times it will be a drain or some kind of drainage system item. There's a few of them out there. I don't know the names of all of them. Then we want you to take a contextual photo. A contextual photo shows us where the flooding is located. So if it's on a street, you might show the corner, you might show the sign, you might show some of the cars. So it's just what we would call a long shot or a wide shot. It's a contextual photo. That's in contrast to the close-up of where the standing water is coming from. And if the water is moving, sometimes it's literally bubbling out of some of these sources. If you take a very short video, probably about 3 seconds, that's sometimes helpful so we can see it. You don't want to, please don't take a really long video because that will be a big file. It will take a little while for it to go up to the server and be processed, and you'll be waiting for the thing to submit. So if you do want to take a video, make it short. And if you see any possible contamination source, so let's say there is a drain element that's next to a dumpster, that dumpster could very well be contaminating the water that's coming out of the drainage system. And if that means if someone steps in it, it could be quite contaminated. All right, and then field notes are for anything else that you think is important that you would like to tell us. Once you have filled in all of these blanks, click the big submit button. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. Come on, buddy. There we go. It may take a minute, not a minute, but a few seconds. There it goes. And then you should see a screen like this letting you know that your response has been recorded. And if you have any problems, any questions, you can call the cell numbers that Alyssa will have on the form. You can also email me. I will be monitoring. All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Susan. So I will just wrap up our last points here, and then we can open up the Q&A session. So just basically reiterating the point that Susan just recently brought up, that if you do get to the site that you were assigned to and you do not see flooding, that is data for us, and we do want you to document that and submit a report for it, telling us that there was 0 inches of flooding, submitting the picture that looked like this, and then go ahead and look around, let's say, that neighborhood or that area to see if there's additional flooding. Usually if you go more towards the coast, you're probably more likely to bump into some flooding. And then to the question that Sophie had brought up, bring boots if you have them, if not, shoes that can get wet. So with that, I will open the Q&A floor. I'll also stop sharing the screen so we can see some faces.
What about the smaller ones?
Okay, so Sarah sent me oh, I'm sorry. Hi. Did somebody, I'm sorry, I didn't hear if somebody was speaking.
The smaller ones. We've got the large bottles and then we have the little small ones.
Yeah, so the small ones are the Ecolite tubes. So what you'll do is you'll use the large one to fill the water. And Susan, would you mind holding it up? It's great that you actually have like the examples there. So, so you'll get the larger ones that she had just shown. You'll fill that up with water, as Tiffany had instructed how to do that. And then you'll use that to fill these little vials. The reason why we don't want you to use the vials in the water is because they have a substance in it, which is the Ecolite test. So you're going to pour into the little one. Yep, exactly. Thanks, Susan. And then once you do that, then you refill the large translucent bottle, and there you have your sample. And just so everybody knows, the larger sample bottles are what we need to be refrigerated, which is why we ask that all kits are returned immediately after sampling by the station leaders. And then we refrigerate them. We put them in ice immediately. So thank you, Susan. Sarah had sent me a personal message asking how long does this process take? So it really only takes about, I think, maybe 5, max 10 minutes just sampling. There's like, the trickiness of kind of getting the picture of the refractometer might take you longer than actually measuring the water, but you shouldn't be at your site for more than 20 minutes. Would you agree, Tiffany?
So we have the sampling time, and then we ask people to arrive 15 minutes prior to that, and then to stay 15 minutes after. So, you could be on site for, I'd say more like 45 minutes to an hour to allow that time, but it likely will not take that long.
And are they only getting one sample at their site?
So as we mentioned, it's, you're just taking the one water depth and salinity measurement, but we've got duplicate E. coli and water sample bottles in the kits, so that's more of like an internal analytical test to make sure that the first sample is equivalent to what the second sample looks like. It's just sort of a quality control protocol.
Yeah, but the 2 samples are taken back to back. I didn't say that earlier. Great. And then Leanne McDonald, to your point, so Leanne's actually in Martin County, and I'd actually like to call on Emily. Sorry to put you on the spot, Emily, but on Leanne's map, unlike the Miami-Dade County one, she has 2 stars on her maps. Would she be going to one or the other? Or how would you like her to take care of
Which one is that? Is that the Twisted Tuna?
I believe so. Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, it was more, you can pick one. you get there and maybe Twisted Tuna is a great spot.
It's the Charlie Leeton Park.
Oh, Charlie Layton. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had put 2 stars just for places to check that, sometimes flood. It could be I think the 2 stars were on the boat ramp area. And then
Yeah.
just kind of down the seawall. Sometimes the water can come up over that seawall. So those are just kind of areas to check.
And then just in general about measuring the depth of the flooding, because I mean, I don't actually go to that spot ever, so I don't really know what normal looks like. So I don't know what, where I would measure the depth of flooding other than just looking at this star.
If you see the water up and over the seawall,
Mhm.
flooding over that, then that would definitely, I haven't actually.
So then I just measure it like from the seawall up is probably like a good.
I would,
Sorry, you would measure it from the road or the sidewalk, and that you would, so that so that your water tape, you've placed it on the ground surface, and then you would measure up to the water level.
yeah, like the grassy area on the other side of the seawall was flooded out. So then you would measure that grassy area. The boat ramp, sometimes they go up and over the docks. We don't want you walking on any, docks that are flooded because you could fall off the side and not see it. That's unsafe. But if you see that the water is flooded, sometimes like at Sanskrit, for example, the water will come way up the boat ramp and it's covered the docks. It might flood part of the parking lot area. And Tiffany and Alyssa, I'm not really sure with boat ramps, like if it's flooded, we don't want people walking on the flooded docks, obviously, but could they just sample like in the boat ramp area if there's no boats there, obviously?
Yeah, or the parking lot, or yeah.
Yeah, kind of up.
Good.
So kind of up to your discretion if but we just definitely don't want you walking out on those flooded docks. But that does give a good indication that there's flooding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And pictures really help describe like our those pictures that you submit, especially the long shot picture, really helps us understand where exactly you ended up taking it. So just emphasis on pictures.
Yeah, and another thing, I was just thinking, I think at Charlie Layton, you have the seawall and then there's a walkway below it. There might be. And that would be another thing. If that walkway is covered, you don't have to get on it, but you could probably sample if that area that's not supposed to be covered by water is, and you could safely sample that, measure how much flooding is over that might be good too.
Okay.
Great. So Sophie, to sort of answer your question, but also let everybody know. So sampling site location assignments were sent by email to some folks that did have complete teams. So if you should have already gotten the email, or you will be getting it in the next hour. So those emails have your site map attached to it, as well as the time that you're expected to get there. You have a latitude and longitude that you can plug easily into your GPS, and it takes you right there. And if you have team members, well, you will have team members, but they're also copied on the email. So if you have not received an email yet, you will be getting it again within the next hour or two. We were just trying to confirm if you were going to attend. Which it's good to see you here, Sophie. So now I'll be sending you the email after. Alrighty.
Okay, who should I expect the email from? I could like look for it in my inbox.
From me, Alyssa Hernandez. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think I see it. Yeah.
But that's fine. I'll shoot you another email now that I know you're participating. And I think Sarah, I also sent you an email. And I know Allison as well. So I'll send you all your locations now that I know you'll be joining us. Great. So I'll just, any other questions? Nope.
And rain or shine.
There
Yeah.
will be donuts.
Yeah. So if you're coming to the in-person event, which I guess now I can show my closing remarks, which is to my point. So as I said, location assignments were sent out today. You've already gotten it or not, or you'll be getting it. So tomorrow we have our event at Arcola Lakes Park that is for Miami-Dade County. So Martin County folks, I'm sorry, we owe you donuts, but I wouldn't make you drive all the way down to Miami-Dade County. We will have the Chief Resilience Officer, Jim Murley, joining us as our special guest. So if you are coming to the event, we will go over the same sort of training, but as we said, we have donuts and you'll be able to meet in person with your team members. So it's a good way to come together before going out and sampling. And just a reminder that if you don't see sampling, if you don't see flooding, that is data. So please still report that and go on ahead and see if you can find more flooding.
But just to make sure to wait a little while, just to, because sometimes it takes a few minutes to start flooding, because sometimes it'll come up from a storm drain faster than it will come up over a seawall, and it just happens pretty quickly. So just try to wait a little bit for the optimal sampling time that was indicated on your kits and in your emails. And then if you don't see anything, then we recommend trying to find another location.
Awesome.
And maybe we'll have donuts next year for Martin County.
Yay!
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We very much appreciate you joining us today and tomorrow. If you have any questions, you should have my email from this calendar invite, and we will follow up soon. We will be in contact. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Oh, to Sophie's point, the event is not mandatory. If you are able to coordinate a meeting with your team at the sampling location you're assigned, you can just go directly to the sampling site. The event is not mandatory, especially if you've already come to the training. So.
Okay, well, will your email provide like the contact info for like my group?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
great day.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have fun. Good luck.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.